Sadhana and grace according to Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi. Devotee asked, research on God has been going on from time immemorial. Has the final word been said? Maharishi said, keep silence for some time. Devotee asked, should I consider Sri Bhagwan's silence as the reply to my question? Maharishi said, yes, Mauna is Ishvara Swarupa, hence the text. The truth of Supreme Brahman proclaimed through silent eloquence. Devotee asked, Buddha is said to have ignored such inquiries about God. Maharishi said, and for this he was called a nihilist. In fact, Buddha concerned himself more with directing the seeker to realize bliss here and now than with academic discussion about God, etc. Devotee asked, God is described as manifest and unmanifest. As the former, he is said to include the world as a part of his being. If that is so, we as part of that world should have easily known him in the manifested form. Maharishi said, know yourself before you seek to decide about the nature of God and the world. Devotee asked, does knowing myself imply knowing God? Maharishi said, yes, God is within you. Devotee asked, then what stands in the way of my knowing myself or God? Maharishi said, your wandering mind and perverted ways. Devotee asked, I am a weak creature, but why doesn't superior power of the Lord within remove the obstacles? Maharishi said, yes, he will, if you have the aspiration. Devotee asked, why should he not create the aspiration in me? Maharishi said, then surrender yourself. Devotee asked, if I surrender myself, is no prayer to God necessary? Maharishi said, surrender itself is a mighty prayer. Devotee asked, but is it not necessary to understand his nature before one surrenders oneself? Maharishi said, if you believe that God will do for you all the things you want him to do, then surrender yourself to him, otherwise let God alone and know yourself. Devotee asked, has God or Guru any solicitude for me? Maharishi said, if you seek either, they are not really two but one and identical. Rest assured that they are seeking you with a solicitude greater than you can ever imagine. Devotee asked, Jesus gave the parable of the lost coin, wherein the woman searches for it till it is found. Maharishi said, yes, that aptly represents the truth that God or the Guru is always in search of the earnest seeker. Were the coin a dud piece, the woman would not have made that long search. Do you see what it means? The seeker must qualify himself through devotion, etc. Devotee asked, but one may not be quite sure of God's grace. Maharishi said, if the unripe mind doesn't feel his grace, it doesn't mean that God's grace is absent, for it would imply that God is at times not gracious, that he ceases to be God. Devotee asked, is that the same as the saying of Christ, according to thy faith be done unto thee? Maharishi said, quite so. Devotee asked, the Upanishads say, I am told that he alone knows the Atma, who the Atma chooses. Why should the Atma choose at all? If it chooses, why some particular person? Maharishi said, when the sun rises, some buds alone blossoms, not all. Do you blame the sun for that? Nor can the bud blossom of itself. It requires the sunlight to do it. Devotee asked, may we not say that the help of the Atma is needed because it is that Atma that drew over itself the wheel of Maya? Maharishi said, you may say so. Devotee asked, if the Atma has drawn the wheel over itself, should not itself remove the wheel? Maharishi said, it will do so. See for whom is the wheel. Devotee asked, why should I let the Atma itself remove the wheel? Maharishi said, if the Atma talks about the wheel, then the Atma itself will remove it. Devotee asked, is God personal? Maharishi said, yes. He is always the first person, the I ever standing before you, because you give precedence to worldly things. God appears to have receded to the background. If you give up all else and seek Him alone, He alone will remain as the I, the Self. Devotee asked, the final state of realization is said to be, according to Advaita, the absolute union with the divine, and according to Vasishtha Advaita, a qualified union, while Dvaita maintains that there is no union at all. Which of these should be considered the correct view? Maharishi said, why speculate as to what will happen sometime in the future? All are agreed that I exist, to whichever school of thought he may belong. Let the earnest seeker first find out what the I is, then it will be time enough to know what the final state will be, whether the I will get merged in the Supreme Being or stand apart from Him. Let us not forestall the conclusion, but keep an open mind. Devotee asked, but will not some understanding of the final state be a helpful guide even to the aspirant? Maharishi said, no purpose is served in trying to decide now what the final state of realization will be. It has no intrinsic value. Devotee asked, why so? Maharishi said, because you proceed on a wrong principle. Your ascertainment has to depend on the intellect, which shines only by the light it derives from the self. Is it not presumptions on the part of the intellect to sit in judgment over that of which it is but a limited manifestation and from which it derives its little light? How can the intellect, which can never reach the self, be competent to ascertain, much less decide, the nature of the sunlight at its source by the standard of the light given by a candle? The wax will melt down before the candle comes anywhere near the sun. Instead of indulging in mere speculation, devote yourself here and now to the search for the truth that is ever within you. Hari Om Tat Sat.